Can I just review Godzilla -1 again?
Welcome to my world.
Can I just do that? Like I went and saw it again. I saw it twice in theaters. Saw it in black and white. I'm wearing the cavity colors. Why? I'm wearing the shirt. I'm wearing the shirt. Isn't that good enough? But in all seriousness, today we have Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. Again with the title, for the sake of marketing, sure, I get it. GXK, like, sure, so be it. I'm not here to like rip on the movie. I had fun, right? But we all know what we're signing up for here. It's the difference between going to see like Ford versus Ferrari and Fast and Furious. It's the difference between going to see The Shining and Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Like, as long as you're prepared for what you're gonna go see, I'm starting to adopt this new philosophy where I gotta respect most forms of cinema, and that includes movies like this. I tempered my expectations, I set a certain dial in my brain, and you know what? I had a pretty decent time. If you don't know, Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, let's GXK. How about that? You know what? Like, if you don't know, GXK is the newest in the series of the American Godzilla films. You got Godzilla, then you had Godzilla King of Monsters, which to this day is still, out of all of these, my personal favorite. Then you had, well, technically you had Skull Island, which then brought Kong in, like re-brought him in. Sorry, Peter Jackson. And then you had, this is the lore here, then you had Godzilla versus Kong and that whole thing, which I believe I reviewed. I know I reviewed that one. I may have reviewed King of Monsters. No, I did not. Okay, so then technically the Monarch series happened, which I actually heard supposed to be pretty good. I'll watch it one of these days. And now we have the team up for the other bad guys in Middle Earth, or whatever the hell they call it. And they got we here with Godzilla, GXK, the New Empire. Because sure, for those that don't know, we actually have the director is returning from the previous one. He didn't do every one of these Godzilla movies, but it appears they found one they seem to like, at least for now. But we have an Adam Wingard, and this guy, it actually has some bangers. And all things considered, he's been doing well with these. But he also did stuff like The Guest, which I will watch one of these days. And one that I do very much, I love this movie, man. It takes the survival horror genre and then subverts your expectations before you even get to Act 2. You're Next. You're Next is so good, and I'm actually overdue for a rewatch. This man knows how to make a good, entertaining film, and I'm not gonna lie. Is it good? GXK is entertaining, so good job, Adam. We're not here for the cast, are we? Respect where respect is due. Arguably our two main characters here, but we actually they're returning again. They're keeping the continuity, huh? We have Rebecca Hall, who plays Dr. Eileen Andrews in this film, which, funny enough, no, I know what you're thinking, and she's not the gal from You or from Haunting of Hill House, even though I thought she was. Returning once again to the screen in one of her very few roles, we have Kaylee Hoddle as Gia. You would know her from the previous movie, or otherwise she was in one episode of the 2021 rebooted series of Magnum PIs. So where do we even go with Godzilla X Kong, right? I'm not like a Godzilla mega fan, but but I do very much enjoy Godzilla in the movies and King Kong. It's funny because in a vacuum, I love both. Godzilla's awesome, great, cool. I like him more of as a metaphor these days. And then King Kong, for the longest time, Peter Jackson's King Kong was my favorite movie of all time as I was growing up. Probably still my top 10 favorite films. If you go back even to my original review for, I think, Godzilla vs. Kong, I say something to the effect of, and yes, what the critics said was the story kind of takes a back seat, which I hate to be this guy that says it, but if you're going to go see a Godzilla film, you're not really going to go see it, correct me if I'm wrong, for a compelling, heart-wrenching story, which is why out of all of these, King of Monsters was my favorite because there were humans in there, but I mean they were taking a back seat. It was monster fighting action galore. These are, as one of my ex-roommates would say, this harkens back to like 70s Godzilla, where it's just we're sliding around on tails here kind of stuff. I think I figured it out this way because I praised Godzilla -1 and I gave it a just about a perfect score, but that balanced out really well between having Godzilla action, but at the same time Godzilla as a stand-in and a metaphor for like PTSD and war and trauma, and there was a heavy focus on the humans, but it was done very well. The problem with these films is that when you try to inject the human element into them, and you try to have a narrative involving these people and these characters, like as much as you might want to care about them, they just can't seem to juggle that right. First Godzilla, basically all human, barely Godzilla. King of Monsters came, the scale shifted, and we saw all of the monsters and the beasties, but then the humans were barely there. And then Godzilla versus Kong happened, and then you had, I mean, I don't want to say an even split, but as close to an even split as we've had so far. But again, it's like, do we really care about these people? You kind of want to, but they're not incredibly well written. The actors are doing their damnedest, but then here we are again. And you have, I think they actually did a breakdown in these movies that are supposed to be about Godzilla. He has, I think, 8 minutes of total screen time, or it, they, he, she, pretty much Kong's movie, which is weird because it's called Godzilla X Kong, as if Godzilla is like the title headliner in the fight in the show here, and yet he's like, you got this big monkey and ding ding, and then Kong goes in, and you got mini Kong, and then other Kongs, and then the Scar King Kong, and then you have a different variation of Godzilla, and then every now and then you see Godzilla for a couple minutes, and he's like nap time, and then you just move on with your day. So I've come to accept the fact that the American Godzilla movies that they're gonna keep making inevitably as they keep making the MonsterVerse and this whole franchise between new creatures that arise in the mythos of Godzilla, which, I mean, cool, good. I'm glad Godzilla fans are getting their modern day spotlight. Like, I accept these films for what they are. I will watch, I will support, I will most likely enjoy to a certain degree. This is, say, in terms of like what I'm gonna actually sit and wait for on pins and needles is whenever -1 gets a sequel or whatever that looks like. Like, though that's more my cup of tea, is the more cerebral, subversive, there's more of something to be said there. There's great performances, killer effects, and it's not like watching a 2-hour-long WWE wrestling match. But I digress. If you turn your brain off a little bit, just like Fast and Furious or like any Jason Statham movie, then you're in for a good time. I will say, like, especially by about halfway, there's some action in the first act, but I think about halfway through Act 2, towards the end of the film, the action really picks up. It gets entertaining and fun. Like, do I even spoil it? I don't know, sure. You want to use Little Ape as a nunchuck? Go ahead. You want to have your main villain look like Negan from The Walking Dead and just be like, well, who's squaring up to me now, huh? And you know what? I laughed a few times. Not necessarily at the purposeful comedic relief, because, by the way, fun little Easter egg, we have Brian Tyree Henry in this movie as well, coming back once again. My boy Lemon. He's, you know, the goofy comedic relief. Not all the comedy lands, what I'm trying to say. A lot of it is silly and kind of just like dumb. Although I will say that I don't want to rag on like typical audiences or whatever, but we were in a pretty packed house. We were seeing this opening night. And there was there were some people that were definitely enjoying the film. Big monkey punched another big monkey in the face. Oh my God. And there was a guy toward the back. He was loving this movie. This was the best thing he had seen all year. He was like, Dune, what's that? Something silly happened, this, and he's like, like, it was just, I don't mean to belittle anyone's intelligence or poo-poo on anybody's fun factor, but I know exactly what demographic this film was made for, and I might not be it. I don't know if it's funny the way that it's supposed to be, or you're just laughing because what's happening on screen is ridiculous. Just start shoving that Cheetos popcorn down your throat, watching the monster carnage take place, and you're just like, nah, big monkey go brrr. And then Godzilla charges up for like half an hour, and it's like an episode of Dragon Ball or something, and that's also fun, I guess. The cons, I guess, it's very lucrative, by the way, so they're going to keep making more of these. These films are what they are. It's just going to be like, do you want to see the big Godzilla and Kong boys fight on screen but have all the characteristics of like human beings, kind of, and act like humans, but be animals, like mutated animals, and just a bunch of humans trying to figure it all out, sci-fi jargon on screen, yada yada their way through the plot, and then have comedic moments that sometimes will hit, but other times would fall flat and not work out too well. Some moments they look really good, and other moments it's just CGI big boy ape. Character decisions, even for the animals, even for Colin, where I'm like, all right, he's being silly right now. Like, is the old man losing it? I don't know. Predictable? I mean, no shocker there. You can kind of read how the movie's gonna narratively progress. I literally even in my head like figured out how Scar King was gonna go down, because of course he is. Evil can't win. Trying to inject the human element, like you want to care, but it just kind of takes a back seat to everything else, and it helps to drive certain aspects of the plot, but it just also is just, I don't know, it's just shiny and CG, and I don't know, I'm almost at a loss for words. I mean, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, would I see it again? Sure. Quality of a film and personal enjoyment, I would mark it as like average. Like, it's definitely not in the top 10 for the year. I have seen worse movies. Hell, I've seen worse Godzilla movies. Like, it could have been a lot worse. I feel like this could have just been Colin's movie. It makes sense for it to be the verses, right? Because you're like, okay, well, we've built up these two with their respective films, and now it's like Marvel Civil War. Let's have them go at it with each other. But then to have this be the next installment and what's supposed to be like the American Godzilla franchise, give Godzilla first billing, and then have all this to say this is a story about Colin and his struggle and how he's lonely and how he winds up in this situation, and Godzilla just kind of is there and shows up. Like, this just, in my opinion, should have been a King Kong movie. This is like Book of Boba Fett, when like for 2 or 3 episodes it becomes the Mandalorian like season 3 prequel. Like, it just, why? Just make that then. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, I give it a 3 out of 5. You know this was coming. I give it a 3 out of 5. Average. I know what to expect from these films now going forward, and I'm not going to hold my breath for like a giant leap in qualities. I think that's all I gotta say. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers. Want to sign off there, Godzilla, my boy?